I would like to introduce myself. I'm just one woman who has served in the infantry for the last 30 years, since 1991, and give voice to all the women who need to speak up. I'm a soldier who served, and that service for me has left battle scars, what I call. And I was the subject of many intense and unfair power dynamics throughout my career.
I want to ask, if I could, have you been contacted by the Canadian Forces National Investigation Service as part of the investigation into the allegations against General Vance?
I was, my chain of command reported to the military police and started an investigation. It wasn't the other way around.
And have they contacted you for your statement as part of the investigation?
I was interviewed for 2 entire days, 6 hours each, and deposed information with the CFNIS, evidence and testimony.
Wow. Did General Vance ever instruct you to lie about your relationship?
Madam Chair, yes, it's recorded, and the CFNIS has all of the recordings of him directing me what to say, what not to say, how to say it, what to exclude, to purge myself, and to lie. Because
did he ever threaten you?
A threat, meaning bodily harm, no.
Or
Madam Chair.
Whatever you perceived as a threat? Reprisals, consequences?
Definitely, he gave me very many consequences if I was not following his orders. Madam Chair.
Could you give us an example?
One of the ones that I couldn't figure out the most is I was going to be questioned by his spouse, who's a lawyer, and questioned over and over and over again if I didn't say the right thing, that somehow she was going to come and see me and question me. That I was not to mention certain things about our relationship, our personal lives. The consequences were always the same, that I had to stay silent.
Do you have, did you believed that you didn't have the ability to say no? Is that correct?
I didn't have the ability to say no. They were orders. He would speak until I agreed, at length. A one-way talk is what we call it.
Do you have physical evidence of his inappropriate relationship with you? Or any kind of evidence?
Madam Chair, I have deposed that with the CFNIS, recordings, emails, texts, and testimony.
Okay. In your interview with the media, you stated that other senior personnel were aware of the abuse of power that General Vance exhibited toward you. Do you have knowledge that any of them have been contacted as part of the investigation into the allegations against General Vance?
I have no knowledge. After I deposed my testimony twice in February, the only thing I've received is 2 update emails that simply said, we're still on the case. No other information has been given to me.
Are you concerned that perhaps the investigation is not being taken seriously and that it is deliberately being undermined or delayed?
Madam Chair, I asked bluntly the CFNIS if they had the mandate to investigate and did they have the powers to lay charges. and they would not answer me. The answer was no, because as the CDS told me, he was untouchable. He owned the CFNIS.
So are you concerned that despite 2 days of depositions, that there's a possibility that you won't have your day in court, so to speak, and he won't be held accountable?
I definitely feel that there will not be justice for me. And in all honesty, that's okay. Because if my speaking out can change everything for other women to come forward and change our policies, that's okay with me. Because I was first in the infantry when we were allowed to join, and I knew I was taking a hard road.
Your last comments, you said that General Vance considered himself untouchable. Could you give us an idea of what he meant by that? Did that include, say, the Minister of National Defense, Harjit Sajjan?
Given my, thank you for the question, Madam Chair. The experience, I can only speak from what I know. And when I worked at Downsview in Toronto with Minister Sajjan, who was then Major Sajjan, and we both worked for General Vance, there was a different dynamic. Afterwards, General Vance always told me that he always had him under control. So those were comments to me personally. I can't discuss any of their working relationship because I was not privy to that.
Well, thank you. And so, did you have any sort of perspective on any of the other senior officers that perhaps would have been around him at the time? Did he feel that, in part, the law didn't apply to him?
Thank you for the question, Madam Chair. In my experience, in many different areas, the law does not apply to him. He doesn't, on a personal note, so he fathered 2 children with me. He's not responsible to pay or to have those children under his responsibility. It's all up to me. So he's excluded himself from a lot of portions of the Canadian society that we hold as responsible. So I think that it's just become a habit with him.
Could you just tell me what position Major Sajjan had at Downsview when you worked with him?
Madam Chair, thank you for the question. To my best recollection, he was a special projects officer.
And what position did General Vance have?
He was the COS. He was the chief of staff.
And you go ahead. Sorry.
We call it a division now, but it was LFCA headquarters back then.